Thank you very much indeed, Chantal. Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Dr. Matthew Sposa, the Honorable Tony Leon, MP and former leader of our opposition party, the Director of the Gordon Institute of Business Science, Professor Nick Binader, who is here with us, Chief Executive Officer of Business Unity South Africa, Mr. Jerry Vilagazi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and privilege indeed for me to be sharing a platform this morning with some of our greatest leaders in South Africa. It is equally an honor for me to be presenting to tomorrow's leaders, as you have been identified and nominated by your respective organizations as having enormous potential and talent to lead your organizations into the future. One needs to only look around to appreciate the sheer amount of talent and brain power present in this room. I have no doubt that most, if not all of you, are already on the road to being captains of industry, if you are not already. I would like to commend Cape Media and Leadership Magazine for their sterling work in bringing all of us together this morning. And we at Anglo American are as proud to be the main sponsor of this auspicious event as we are to be associated with it. I would like to address you this morning on leadership in troubled times. Leadership is a vast and complicated concept, and one cannot possibly do justice in trying to unpack it in 15 minutes, as indeed Chantal has restricted us to 15 minutes. However, I will try to focus my presentation on the type of leadership needed in troubled times. As we speak, the world is in trouble, besieged as it is by the worst global economic downturn since the 1930s. Globally, the war on terror continues unabated, with sporadic incidents in Baghdad, Mumbai, and Lahore, spearheaded by non-state actors. In some parts of the African continent, civil unrest is rearing its ugly head again, as we have recently seen with the tragic double assassinations in Guinea-Bissau of the Army Chief of Staff, General Batista Tagmena Way, and President João Bernardo Vieira. We also saw, for the first time in the world, the International Criminal Court issuing a warrant of arrest against a sitting president of a country, Omar al-Bashir of Sudan, for alleged war crimes against humanity. The troubled times confronting the world started as what many perceived as just a subprime crisis in the United States in the latter part of 2007, and developed into a banking crisis before becoming the full-blown global economic crisis of unprecedented proportions, which, as Dr. Posa said, is affecting not just the world, but us here in South Africa. Effective leadership is thus required more than ever before to extricate the world from the troubles it is facing. South Africa has a huge role to play in the global debate around effective leadership. Unfortunately, the global discourse around leadership tends to be manufactured in certain parts of the world, and this part of the world, Africa and other developing countries, tend to be consumers of knowledge produced elsewhere. I am very pleased that we've got scholars like Professor Binader with us here, who certainly should lead the charge in defining leadership from an Afrocentric perspective rooted from our homegrown experiences. Coming back to the concept of leadership, the fact that there is no consistent overall agreed definition of what leadership is shows the complex nature of the concept. Peter Drucker, one of the doyens of leadership, defined it as a simple act of a leader having followers, and to have followers, he argues, requires influence. John Maxwell, another scholar based in America on leadership, defines leadership as being influence, nothing more, nothing less. This moves beyond the position of defining the leader to looking at the ability of the leader to influence others. On the other hand, people like Tom Peters have defined leadership as an act of development and inducing people to grow, to go beyond where they believe they could go. What I find attractive out of the mosaic of definitions around leadership is that has been propounded by Jim Collins, who is the author of the famous book, From Good to Great. Jim Collins takes things a step further and introduces a new term to the leadership lexicon, that of level 5 leadership, which is based on the idea that, I quote, respect towards people, selflessness by the leader, and a strong, powerful commitment to achieve results bring out the best in subordinates. Level 5 leaders are a paradoxical blend of fierce will and personal humility. They are stubborn and ruthless, yet they are humble. They are ambitious for their companies, and dare I say their countries, and rarely allow their ego to be an obstacle for the success of their organizations. And it goes to say as well for the success of their countries and communities. For me, the most powerful concept of leadership that I would argue that it is required in our troubled times right now is that of transformational leadership. By transformational leadership, I refer to a leadership style in which a leader or a group of people in a collective identify the needed change, create a vision to guide the change through inspiration, and execute the change with commitment to the members of the group. There are 4 basic tenets of transformational leadership, and these are, firstly, developing the vision, secondly, selling the vision, thirdly, finding the way forward, and lastly, leading the charge. Transformational leadership starts with the development of a vision, a view of the future that will excite and convert potential followers. This vision may be developed by the leader, by the senior team, or may emerge from a broad series of discussions involving a collective. The important factor is that the leader buys into it wholeheartedly. The next step, which in fact never stops, is to constantly sell the vision. This takes energy and commitment, as few people will immediately buy into a radical vision, and some will join the show much slowly than others. The transformational leader takes every opportunity and will use whatever works to convince others to climb on board the bandwagon. In order to create followers, the transformational leader has to be very careful in creating trust, and their personal integrity is a critical part of the package that they are selling. In effect, they are selling themselves as well as the vision. In parallel with selling the vision activity is seeking the way forward. Some transformational leaders know the way and simply want others to follow. Others do not have a ready strategy, but will happily lead the exploration of possible routes towards the realization of the developed vision. The route forward may not be obvious and may not be plotted in details, but with a clear vision, the direction will always be known. Thus, finding the way forward can be an ongoing process of course correction, and the transformational leader will accept that there will be some failures and challenges along the way. As long as they feel progress is being made, they will be happy. The fourth and final stage is to remain upfront and central during the action. Transformational leaders are always visible and will stand up to be counted rather than hide behind their troops. They show their attitudes and actions, how everyone else should behave. They also make continued efforts to motivate and rally their followers, constantly doing the rounds, listening, soothing, and enthusing. Basically, they lead from the front and they lead by example. It is their unswerving commitment as much as anything else that keeps people going, particularly through the darker times when some may question whether the vision can be achieved. If the people do not believe that they can succeed, then their efforts will flag. The transformational leader seeks to constantly motivate his or her followers